Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Policy and Personnel Committee meeting. I'm just covering for Dr. Schaefer, who's out of town.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So as you're both new to this committee sometimes is very busy and sometimes there's not so much on. We pay a membership fee to PSBA, and PSBA has a legal team as part of our agreement with them they review our policies, they review everyone's policies, and they make recommendations based on legal actions that have come up across the state, things that have come down from Harrisburg as best practice, et cetera. And they push out what they call the Pennsylvania Policy News Network, and they make recommendations and say, look, we think based on the recommendations we have from the state and what's going on legally across the country, you should update your policies to say these things just to protect the school board and the school district. And we typically follow what they do, and they'll give us a little report and say these things, these are mandated or these are not mandated, to try to make sure that we are in compliance. As you will see, our number one agenda item is an issue where we're currently not in compliance. A few years ago, when we updated our school wellness policy, we updated it based on some recommendations. We are due to update it again here in the summertime. However, during the audit that is going on, they found that we were out of compliance with this particular policy. They sent us this recommendation and said, look, you're missing required language. And so all we are recommending is that we are fixing that recommended language that is now being added. It's just I think it was like 2 sentences.
It's just a paragraph about marketing to students.
So, so with the recommendations there, and did you see when you go on the agenda, I clicked or we hyperlink the actual policies. So when you guys have a chance, you can go through, read them, and you have any questions, definitely ask. So that's it. So if there's, go ahead.
I do want to point out though that while the PSBA makes those recommendations or their legal team, technically we are not necessarily required to go by their recommendations.
Sometimes we don't have to. They will tell us if they say like this one in particular is mandated by the state.
Correct.
You must have this in your policy, and we don't. Sometimes they'll make recommendations and say the policy is mandated, but some of the specific language that you use is up to the school board.
Correct.
So
I'd also like to say that Hillary, when she was on the board, Hillary clearly led this committee and reviewed all the policies, brought them all up to date. So what we're doing now is
just maintenance.
Is maintenance, which is significantly easier than what Hillary went through.
Yeah.
She went through all the policies. None of them had been updated for decades. So all we'd have to do is just keep up.
Do
How
you know
many years
Hillary?
ago was that Hillary
Sally?
was on?
Last
She
name?
was,
Hillary Creeley?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
she's
an attorney.
Yes, I know that. I
Two
worked with
cycles
her.
of IEP.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She led that charge maybe
Good
8
for
years
her.
ago.
And she did a
Appreciate
great
that.
job because I would say this, the 3 districts I've worked with, like this district is by far the most current, up to date with all their policies. So they've done a nice job. You guys have all
Nice.
done a nice job maintaining it. And I agree. It's just, as long as this meeting is simply just to keep that maintenance going so that we don't end up in the same situation. So if there's no objection, we'll move policy 246 to the board for their approval or their reading tonight.
And if we do a second reading in 2 weeks, I can submit that to PD as part of our review for food service, and we'll be in compliance as far as they're concerned.
So tonight's just considered the first reading.
The first reading, right? This committee would make any adjustments if you'd like me to change anything, if you find that things I misspelled or, mistakes or anything, that you can ask questions, we'll fix it up. Then the board has the official first reading tonight, which is, it's on the board members to read over the policy. The second reading is required by law, and then after we have 2 readings, we can approve the policy. So,
And like Rob said, come spring, we are due for our triannual review of it, where we have to get stakeholders involved, parents, board members, HPE teachers, nurses. Everybody has to, they review it. There's kind of a questionnaire or a form that they can fill out as part of it. We have to do that every 3 years.
I'm sorry, what are we reviewing?
school wellness.
The school wellness policy,
Okay,
student
not-
wellness policy.
Not
Not all.
No, just the student wellness policy.
Yeah,
So
it's a
you,
little tiny piece.
you'll see it here tonight, and then
I was getting to resign, ready to resign.
come spring, you'll see it again.
So since Jim isn't with us tonight, I would recommend that, given his background, that he certainly be one of the board members represented on that.
Well, the way we've done it in the past
let's
is just
make him
made
chairman.
it part of the policy and personnel committee so that we can do it openly. We invite parents to come in. We can invite,
Very good.
we have principals. Usually the teachers do it kind of not as part of the committee, but on their own. And then I just compile that all together and we make any revisions that are needed and keep that information for when we have our reviews. So.
Okay.
Okay. All right, moving on to policy 815. This is the acceptable use of internet, computers, and network resources. This policy has been, the recommendations for updating this policy are really vocabulary. It's really trying to get the vocabulary of the old policy up to date with the progress of technology. As you can see, their computer, the definition for computer will be expanded, to encompass a greater span of devices. It's going to update the list of options the board has to establish an inappropriate matter based on the court decision. So a lot of times where students and teachers and administrators get themselves into trouble is they get on a school district device and they start making some sort of social media comment that is disparaging against another person or a group of people, especially protected classes of people. And when you use a school district device to disparage a protected class of citizens, you are violating state and federal law. So that's not acceptable use. So just they're constantly looking at the laws to make sure that our language explicitly states all the things you can do that are considered inappropriate behavior on the computer. So that's been expanded. With the clarification that technology protection measures may be adjusted in appropriate circumstances outlined in the policy, but would not be fully disabled in accordance with E-rate requirements. So E-rate is a law that gives us the ability to get discounts on our Wi-Fi, basically, and other services, hardware, software, et cetera. And but with that assistance from the federal government comes some bureaucracy, and some requirements. And there are certain things that we have to have in there. There's certain ways we have to do business that we're not allowed to violate. So you can, this language is saying that we can change things, but we can't necessarily disable things. If that makes sense, just to be in compliance with those regulations. Again, updates to the list of prohibitions to clarify terminology that may be overly broad or vague. The addition of terminology and policy reference to address encryption and security procedures. We added a section on accessibility for district websites and web pages for consistency with policy 816. So basically, it says that we may maintain a website at our, to share information. Doesn't require that we do. And that's the stipulations for that. And you can read all the specific language in the policy if you'd like. But that's really just it. It's just bringing up the current terminology or the old terminology to current terminology to make sure that we're a little bit more protected and compliant. And policy 815 is mandated, but there are some specifics that, specific areas that we have some choice.
Rob, so at one point, there was I see here you said a new section on accessibility.
Section 6, yes.
Okay, the very first phrase in that sentence under
B6.
VI.
Yep.
Okay, there was an issue some time ago where, what's that?
Not long ago.
Yeah, not long ago where there was some issue about accessibility for handicapped for our website.
Specifically for visually impaired individuals that are perusing our website. There's a law that says that anything that they have software that when they hover over things, the computer will read what it is to them. So anytime that we're building website and we put a picture on, we have to describe what's in the picture. And our computer program that builds our website allows us to do that. A lot of the websites didn't do that before, so that's why it came out about 5 or 6 years ago. A lot of people were being sued over it because
The federal government was having a field day with that requiring us to do something that was technologically difficult.
It was.
And then they put it on hold. So, because, I mean, even when I went onto the Department of Justice's website, they didn't have it. But they were requiring all the school districts in the world to have
That's
it.
ironic.
So my point is that you're saying a new section on accessibility, is that new section in part to cover that issue that was
It
raised
definitely
5 or
better
6
defines
years?
that. Yep, absolutely. It
Okay.
defines that.
And we have the technology now on our website that we're
It
compliant.
It should not be a problem. And Mr. O'Neill, if you can hear me, correct me if I'm wrong, but our website will even run reports on anything that we're not compliant with, correct?
Yeah, I believe we switched to EdLeo for that exact reason, because we were identified and we were audited and we went through a whole big prep process for that. So yes, EdLeo can tell us where we are and where we aren't compliant. So if a tag is forgotten, if it's not put on, then we can go in and correct it.
That's great. That's great. Because
Yeah.
it was a nightmare before.
Oh,
Yeah, and EdLeo was really good. Whenever we switched to that was the main concern for switching to them, and they've been pretty good with making all the accessibility things very, very easy to use.
And the accessibility piece specifically says district staff who maintain district websites and web pages shall post content which is accessible to individuals with disabilities to the same extent that is available to other users based on the needs of individuals and limitations on the platform. This shall include, but not limited to, including alternative text. That's when you hover over something, the computer program can read what that is. Captions for video content, which EdLeo does. Avoiding text that is posted as an image or conveyed using only color cues, creating links and attachments in formats that are accessible to screen readers and other assistive technology and may be accessed through keyboard or speech navigation, formatting text so it's accessible to screen readers and other assistive technology. So, there's some tools out there that will make the text all pretty, but the computer program can't read it when it's in bubble letters. So they want you to avoid things like that. And EdLeo will tell us when we're doing things that are not compliant. So we can go back and fix it.
And just as a note, we use YouTube to post all our videos. I mean, just like this video right now, when I will post it in the next couple of days, YouTube now does and has for past couple years, will do real-time captioning. So, since we're Google School, so we're using that technology as well. So whatever video that we put up from school using YouTube, we'll do real-time captioning, even if we don't specifically go in and caption it ourselves, which can be kind of time intensive. So the real-time captioning in multiple languages has worked out for us as well.
That's amazing how quickly that's come to the forefront.
It really is. Any other questions or comments about that? Okay, if there's no questions or objections, then we'll move that to the board for approval. Okay. Policy 819 is much more involved. This is an update of suicide awareness, prevention, and response. With the mental health crisis as it is, we are seeing an uptick in all citizens, but especially teenagers, with suicidal ideations and suicide attempts, and it's tragic. We are doing a very good job, or we're doing the best job we can at trying to prevent suicide or suicidal tendencies and intervene as early as possible. The policy was updated a few years ago, I'd say right around the same time of COVID. And since then, we've changed a lot of practices across the state. PCCD has come in and made recommendations about threat assessments, and threat assessments include threats against other people or threats to yourself. So we have very strict protocols about who responds in those situations. We have threat assessment teams established at every one of our buildings. We have mental health training established for all of our students. We have positive social emotional learning activities that build up self-worth and self-esteem and, self-efficacy. And then at the junior and senior high, we have social emotional lessons about decision-making and positive decisions versus destructive decisions. And a lot of the things that used to be done when a long time ago with like MAD or SAD or all those things have now really become part of our curriculum. At the 10th grade, everyone in our 10th grade gets mental health first aid, which is not only, it's a training for students to not only recognize warning signs in themselves, but warning signs in other individuals. So if their friend is starting to exhibit warning signs, they can get connect their friend with someone who can get them with help. So we're doing a lot of these things well, but because of the urgency that's been created around this mental health thing, the practice has outpaced the policy. So PSBA has sent us a whole slew of recommended changes on this one to basically bring our policy up to date with the recommended practice. So there's a lot here. And if you want to look through it, if you guys ever need a computer too, you can ask for one and we can have one.
I didn't print out the policies. I read them.
I can print them for you if you want.
That's okay. I
Sure.
mean, yeah, that's fine. I live and learn. I should,
And we
get a
can always
computer.
get Chromebooks up here for the.
right.
board
It wouldn't be a
meeting.
bad idea for me. I would like that.
Okay,
But this is fine tonight.
awesome. So,
Why don't you take a poll on that of who needs the Chromebooks?
fair enough, will do.
Then, and set up the ones that are needed before the board meetings.
Yes, sir.
So to kind of follow up on that, Rob, there was that statewide data survey.
The PACE survey. We just got the preliminary results back for the last session that we did.
And that's one we did this past year.
Past fall, yeah.
Okay, I would suggest for the new board members that we send them the one from the previous 2 years. So, because most of us have seen that data, and it really hones in on that suicide business. And if I remember, something like half the students thought about it. 20% of them thought seriously about it. 10% of them made plans. I mean, it was the numbers.
I think it was worse than that. It was closer to 20.
I don't
In
remember
our
the,
school district.
That's across the county.
Oh,
across the country. Okay,
Well, we have numbers for our school district too that are very similar, probably slightly less than the counties, but they were every bit
Very high.
but
as high.
it really blew me away that their thought process, and they're putting some action based on that thought process into play,
Right.
was way beyond what I could have ever imagined.
Yeah.
I don't know what this data will
and I'll tell
show.
you, I've dealt a lot with this with my AD position with our students in suicide, a lot. And I have to tell you, when you talk about teachers' responsibilities, there were many nights I couldn't fall asleep because I would be worried about a student, and thank heaven nothing ever happened, to any of the students that I counseled. But it's just an enormous responsibility on the whole school district, but it's one we have to take. And I was happy when I read the policy. I thought, now we have to, we want to keep it up to date.
But the PACE data is more than just the suicide.
Right. I would love to
and-
see that, yeah.
And
It was
you know,
probably
for Chris-
published, right? Or not?
The newest one will be published in February, but the old one is definitely published. It's out there, and I can get you a copy.
Right. Okay, so can I ask a question? I don't know about the policy. There's a team at each school, and I know that's in there. And I believe, and maybe I mixed this up with something else, there's a lead teacher for the team. Is that true? At each school? How do the teams
There's not a lead
work?
teacher. There's
Okay.
a principal, but for the threat assessments, it's usually the school psychologist or a
Okay.
counselor who takes the lead.
Okay,
When available, the school psych goes. And those ladies come early, they stay late, they'll stay with the kid all evening sometimes. They spend a lot of time working with those students and getting mobile crisis involved when necessary. So
yes.
they are usually the lead. The principal and the school psychologist usually are the point people on that. If the school psychologist isn't available, they switch to the counselor, who's probably the most next best qualified person to deal with that if we can't find a school psych from another building to come over. But
And then our 10th graders, this is a new thing that they're learning, or have they
Yep,
always?
it's this year. This year's the
That's what I
first time.
thought, because I brought that up in another meeting.
Mhm.
Are the 10th graders then, when they take this training, be able to identify if their friends say something that maybe is a red flag?
Yep.
And then those students know where to go to?
100%. That's exactly
Nice.
what it's all about. And there's,
Okay.
I want to say there's 4 sessions, is it 4 40-minute lessons that we have now worked into our health curriculum. We've gotten 8 teachers, I think, 6 or 8 teachers trained to be teachers of this, including our health teachers at the senior high and some of our counselors. And a thank you to the IU. Aaron IU did a great job helping facilitate that and work with us on that one. But so we have a good amount of teachers who are able to go in and actually tag team. So 2 adults go in, they teach this lesson to the kids. They allow the kids to, ask a lot of very important questions in a safe space.
Mhm.
And it's really good stuff. We went through, myself and a couple other administrators and some counselors went through the training, and it's really, really good. I mean, it
Nice.
it tells you what, little things like when they text in like finality, like they're like, well, or when they start giving away things, they
Right,
give you
right.
away,
Yes.
they give
yes.
away, valued possessions,
Right.
things like that you're trained to identify as warning signs. Drug and alcohol use is also addressed through this because drug and alcohol use is definitely a contributor to suicide.
Yes.
So, the students get a lot of education about all the different things that can lead a person into this state of despair. So I think it's going to be a positive. I'm really pleased that we're doing it.
But this year, isn't it 10th, 11th, and 12th grade that will
Yes, it
receive
is.
this
I
training?
misspoke.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, we're training
And then
all
the
of
students get some sort of certificate.
Yes.
Am I right?
them. I think so.
Okay.
I hope so. In the
Yeah,
back of the book,
I
I
think-
got one, so if I got one, they should get one. I don't know the answer to that question though, but I can
Okay,
find out.
I don't want to go in too much and take up too much time, but
No,
this is so important, and
it really
I'm
is.
happy I'm retired.
And it's something that you
It's
really, like,
tough.
usually you'll see these policy updates. I'll have like 2 or 3 lines scratched out and then some recommended.
Right,
This one is
noticed.
like,
Oh, it was a whole
the
thing.
whole
It's
policy is
like, I'm
based-
going down, I'm thinking, am I supposed to be reading this? Everything's crossed
Yeah,
out.
it's
It's like,
just like-
oh, okay, there it is.
out with the old and in with the brand new policy. And this is all coming from, and it really, the state is committed to this because this mental
That's
health crisis is not,
Yes.
and it's not just here. It's not just the county, it's
Mhm.
across the state and across the country.
Oh,
We're seeing
yeah.
these kind of data and it is concerning. So, and we are very fortunate because we have in our community, Dr. Mark McGowan from IUP, who actually sat on PCCD's threat assessment development team.
Okay.
And he is a friend, he's someone that we can call on and, he's coming to present at the countywide in-service on Monday. So he's a good friend and he sat with our administrators and talked about a lot of the things. And, interestingly, one thing that stuck with me and stuck with a lot of us was suicidal tendencies are the same thing basically clinically as homicidal tendencies. So when you
I
get to
didn't know
that, when you get to that state of despair, like it's not only if you're willing to kill yourself, it doesn't mean anything to kill someone else. So it's one of those things where it's also a proactive safety measure that we do these things. The social emotional
Great.
learning, the mental health interventions that we have, all of those services are really proactive safety measures, not only to protect individuals from harming themselves, but from harming others too. So it's powerful stuff. And I think that we're doing a lot of good things. It's never perfect. We could always do more, but I think this is a giant step in the right direction. And again, you're going to see a lot of vocabulary updates on this one, self-harm versus, suicide attempt versus suicide threat versus, et cetera, et cetera.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah. And
But
it's just
the only recommendation I had to the policy was, I think I only saw a school psychologist mentioned in there one time,
Okay.
which kind of surprised me when we have 6, correct? We still have 6?
We have 4.
Oh, we have 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you have the 2
And we had
interns
We
on
have
top of the 4
Correct, we have
full-time.
2
Yeah.
interns last year.
2 interns now too.
Oh,
Yes.
we had,
Currently
still,
2
okay.
interns, yeah.
they're full year.
Yeah, they are full intern. They're not certified though, right?
No, they're not certified.
Not yet.
They're finishing their last part of their
Correct.
practicum, or in counseling, we call that practicum instead of.
Right, interns, just
So,
whatever.
so
It's just one of those things about those in the counseling realm where the school psych, well, yeah.
And I'm sure they're probably part of those teams that you mentioned in there. So maybe even
They are 100%.
as a definition or
Yeah.
And maybe clearly delineate who all's on each different team,
And-
the threat assessment, the.
And is it just the two interns and the 4 full-time, or do you have some other
No, each,
social workers or whatever that are involved in these teams?
You,
No.
you can say things louder.
School counselors are involved on these teams.
Yeah, each
and the
team is-
principals are
Yeah,
involved on these teams.
The principals and the counselors I saw in there quite a bit.
Yeah.
Actually named, not by name, but I mean principals,
Yeah.
counselors.
Yes.
But I didn't see a lot of school, I thought there was only one space.
Well, I think that's a legitimate thing to look
yeah,
at.
you definitely have.
Because
where
I
it says-
honestly, when I got students, that was the first person after I got them to agree to walk to the psychologist. Guidance counselors are trained in that too, but when we have all those, I think, possibly have them involved more. I like that idea. Sue.
Absolutely.
And they may be, but. it
They're,
just was
they're
odd that
highly
it wasn't
skilled in this.
very-
Oh, they're absolutely the point person on this.
They
But
are.
To Dr. Reed's point, we can definitely put it in there, principal, school psychologist, counselor, anywhere it says principal, counsel, we'll put school psychologist, and then they're
I think that'd be a good
Definitely.
idea.
Same as
I would
parts of
like
those
to see
teams.
that, yes.
absolutely. But to answer your question, each building, each team is slightly different, but pretty much it's the principal, the school counselor, a school psychologist, and then potentially a teacher or
Special education teachers.
Special
Okay, so each
education
team
teacher.
does have a psychologist on
Yeah.
it.
But every team has a school psych
Yes.
on the team, yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Yes.
So to also help put it in perspective, when I first came on the board, there was only one school psychologist.
And he was part-time.
And like 6 or 7 years ago, they were part-time. And now it's,
Well, the
Now
problems
it's
have
up to-
grown too. The students are having more issues and society's different.
my point is it happened so quickly
Yeah,
and that we did balloon and meet those needs equally as fast as those needs came upon us, Ally.
okay, now my question too, now I'm sorry though, getting into this, but I think like at IUP, and I keep comparing it to that because that was my last frame of reference, we had a counseling center that was staffed with psychologists. And they also had access to a psychiatrist that we actually had on a contract. And that would be for students that needed, medication or whatever, but we don't have a counseling center here.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that we have a counseling center, but we do have the teams that what we do is we start out with a screener, and the screener, we start to identify students that have risk, like either high risk for internalized behaviors like sadness, anxiety, depression, or externalized behaviors like physical, verbal aggression. And so once we identify those students as having those medium, high risk, and those are all determined by the teachers help support and do those surveys, right?
Right.
So they identify students that need that additional supports, and then between our counselors, between our school psychologists, and or mental health workers that we have, and at least at East Pike and at Ben Franklin, those people work together to help support those students. They collect data on them. We meet every 2 weeks. So,
And have plans.
and then
for
there's
them.
also a mechanism in place that teachers can refer students to get that additional support. So if there is a student that we didn't see early on through that screener, then teachers can also identify and kind of make a referral to that team to help support those students.
That's wonderful. And I think, we can have a student that's totally fine and then goes through something in their life, a
For
death
sure.
of a
One event.
grandparent, whatever, and then they're severe risk, and the teacher
Yeah.
would be the first one to identify that student. So then that would kick in for that student as well.
Right.
Correct.
That's
You want to talk
great.
about SAP a little bit?
Well, I was just gonna say, just like with the levels of academic interventions, there are interventions on a behavioral scale. So what we've done is our SAP teams, which are trained teams of all kinds of people on those teams versus the teachers, principal, all those. There are gatekeepers, so the teachers make the referrals to the SAP team, and then the SAP team will then vet if it's an academic thing, we go down this side of the triangle. If it's a behavior thing, we go down this side of the triangle. And then we have different levels of intervention, from anything from skill groups, which are not considered like psychological counseling. They're just skill groups. We work on things like decision making. We work on things like identifying emotions. We work on, Brenda and I just did one with kids, just it's, what are your emotions? How do you tell what you're feeling? We did that with our fourth graders kind of thing.
That's nice.
And that, yeah, and we run those kinds of skill groups. We also then have a layer of what's called counseling in the school with the mental health counselor from the guidance center, the contract the school district has with them that we got several years ago, where they come in, it's a referral process, and they come in and they actually will do counseling in the school for those kids through that service. And then we also have the school counselors as another layer of, counseling as far as short-term, kind of like you said, for those kids that might have a death in the family or whatever, they help get them hooked up with services through grief counseling and those kinds of specific
That's
things.
fabulous.
So we have very many levels
I love
going
it.
on, and we do, and then we have check in and check out, which is an intermediary intervention where the kids might check in the morning with someone, and then before they leave at the end of the day, they check in, just so we know how they're doing and how they're
Oh,
going.
my.
So we have many levels of care.
That's great.
And like I
Sorry, I
said,
didn't mean to over.
No, no, they did a great job
Hey, you're
because-
living it every day, so.
because as you read through the policy, listening to Mrs. Eisman's description of how we approach that, you'll see it in the policy. Like,
Yeah.
someone will check up on the child regularly and those kinds of things. We've been practicing it now for 3+ years, 4 years now, but now it's actually the policy is catching up. So to make sure that we're in compliance there. So
And the psychologists, they're housed in one area? Like, where are their
They have-
offices?
they have offices in the building and here. So
Okay.
when
Right.
they each have, except April. I don't think April has space in. The one at East Pike only has her office here, but she's
Yeah.
connected.
She has a space at Horse
She has a space at Horace Mann, but
Okay.
so some days.
Is that the same
most-
one that's servicing?
No, Shelley Wright does
Oh, Shelley,
Eisenhower,
okay.
she has space at Eisenhower.
Yeah, and I would say more often than not, they're in the buildings. I would say when they're here, they're usually in their hole, we call it in their hole, writing reports. So we don't see them very much here,
Okay,
but
yeah.
they
Okay.
have spaces at both places.
So on this, Paul, we done talking about this, but I have a question. Is this policy
Absolutely.
one that we're going to vote on, or should we wait till it's been revised with adding the,
You will, all policies have to be read twice.
read twice, this
So-
is the first reading?
Yeah,
These
it's the
are all
first
on
read,
here
so-
first.
All right. Got
So
it,
I
got
will
it.
make the changes. You'll read the policy tonight. I'll take the policy, I'm gonna take the minutes right now. Anissa and I will sit down and make the changes, put it up on that board secure page. You guys will read over it again before you vote on it on the 22nd, and then on the 22nd, there'll be a motion to approve it as written. And at that point, if we brought it up as a motion and during the discussion, you were like, well, I really think you should do this or do that, we can always have that discussion there too, and then approve it later.
But to be clear here, we don't actually read the whole policy.
No, I
No, no.
understand
Make a
that.
motion,
No,
please.
I understand.
Yeah, we make a motion.
Right,
You're
right.
expected to read
Right.
it.
I notice on here, on 610, you do have board policies first read. Do we vote on the first read or no? That's just a for information?
It's just the information. Yeah.
Okay, so when I read them tonight, I'll
If
just
we-
mention it, but not.
It's not a formal motion, yeah. Okay, good questions.
That's the notification that we read it once.
Public notification. We had the first read of this policy, and that's, your report will be, we had the first read. of
Right, I had
policy.
written it on here, but then when I looked, it was also on 610, and I thought, I didn't think we voted on first read.
Did I mess up?
Okay.
Is it on the?
I need to.
It's on 6.10.
Oh, yeah,
First
throw her
read of
under the
board
bus.
policy. But I'll just say that that's just a for
Okay.
information, not nothing to vote on yet, that it'll come back for a vote.
Perfect. And you're going to see me in these meetings, just so you know, Dr. McComick, because you're new, sometimes you'll see me furiously typing. It's because I found that if I don't do the minutes while we talk, I can't catch up later. So
Oh, I don't think,
I will occasionally be sitting here typing up things, but that's just because I'm
That's not
recording the
great.
minutes.
I don't even notice.
All right. Okay, so then we'll make those adjustments anywhere it says school psychologist or everywhere it says principal and counselor, we'll add the word school psychologist to make sure that it's consistent throughout. And then if there's any other questions, discussion about that policy? No?
That look good?
Then moving on to our one non-agenda item, Dr. McCovey asked,
Yeah.
brought this up.
And I don't even know if this is the right committee, but who
Sure.
cares, right?
It can be, yeah. Policy affects
It's
it.
personnel, yeah, personnel.
Okay,
Really fits it.
so-
Yeah.
Like I have parents talk about, and I don't know, just operational principle or the principal or other things that change, and I just sort of look at them. I don't blank stare type thing. So I want to just get names and how this works. And I know there's a I would call it a head principal, but you don't call it a head principal, you call it academic
We just
principal.
call it the principal,
The
but it's
principal,
the academic
and then the
principal.
operational principal take care of day-to-day operations.
Correct. We have 2 operational principals in the district.
Okay, so then, just tell me, Horace Mann, the head principal.
Principal is is Erin Eisenman.
Oh.
She's the principal of Horace Mann and Eisenhower.
Oh. Can't we give her another school too?
She actually helps out at the junior high occasionally, so yeah,
We're working on
we're
it, Sally.
Okay, so then who's the head principal at junior high?
Dr. Mike Minnick.
Okay,
He's the.
and I
he's
know,
the principal.
okay. Okay, then who's the head principal at East Pike? Oh, the Springer guy.
Mr. Springer, not
Yeah.
Dr.
I met him.
There's not a head principal, it's only principal.
Yeah.
I know, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're all the same rank technically. That's where the word operational comes
Oh,
from.
okay, so they're the same rank.
They're the same rank, yes.
Ah, so we should not say head
So,
principal,
correct.
okay.
So and I linked the job description in the
I saw that, but that
thing,
didn't
so you
really
can
help
look it
me.
over. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good to have this discussion. So
If someone asks me something, I don't have that policy to pull it up. Okay, so then the high school is
Wade
Wade.
McElhaney is the principal.
Okay, now tell me, then the 2 operational would be the Templeton
Krista Templeton, who's on the call online tonight, if you,
and Doug
Doug Johnson.
Johnson, okay. So then what do they do
So
in
you
these?
forgot about Kelly Urbani.
at Ben Franklin.
who
Oh,
is
we
the
forgot about that. Oh,
principal
my
at Ben Franklin.
So there are there no
My
longer
favorite
assistants?
school.
There are currently no
No
assistants in this.
How can I not
So
say
the
that?
operational
Kelly, okay, I met Kelly too.
Doing some of the
The
former
the
assistant
operational are doing a lot of the things that an assistant principal traditionally would be asked to do.
But how do 2 principals then, okay, so how do 2 principals bounce? Do they actually travel around?
Yes.
The operational principal and Mrs. Eisenman do switch when
So
one's in.
Monday, for example, today's Monday. So Mondays are half day. So I started out at Horseman in the morning and then around 12 PM, Krista and I flip. Then
Okay,
tomorrow's Tuesday, so I will be at Eisenhower all day Tuesday. So I'm located physically at the junior high. And Krista would be at Horseman all day.
okay,
Then Wednesday, I'm physically at Horseman all day.
okay,
And Krista's there at the junior high all day.
okay,
And then Thursday, I'm at Eisenhower or at the junior high, and she's at Horseman. And then Fridays, I'm at Horseman and she's at.
So is she supporting Eisenhower, Horace Mann, and junior high? Or is there still another assistant, or is there
No,
somebody
that's
else
it.
No,
up in
that's it.
junior high?
That's
That's it.
that's the current makeup,
That's the
is the
current
3.
There's a dean of students at the junior high who's there about half time. He has about 3 or 4 periods a day.
And who's that right now?
Paul McHugh.
Paul McHugh.
Sally, from
So he kind of helps us with
but
that.
Paul McHugh's a teacher, isn't he?
Yeah, Dean of Students is a teacher position. It's a teacher position that helps out with low-level discipline.
Okay,
And is there
so
one
he's
at
not
high
teaching
school?
at all?
No, he teaches
Yeah,
half a
he
day and he has a few periods. I think he has 3 periods.
3
where he
periods
is-
is what I think it is, yeah.
Okay, you can understand why I need to get this straight.
Yes,
This-
ma'am.
You,
This could be
you,
good.
you just make,
It just does a
it's
while.
Well, it's
complicated.
good for me too,
Okay,
because
so Doug.
hiring Templeton and who's where, yeah.
Mhm.
So how can Doug be a operational principal and still run the cyber school part?
The cyber school is in his building. If it's anywhere, it's online, right? But it's in his building. So you'll see on the tour, if you get to come to the tour, where that space is. And Doug is the quote unquote principal of that building. However, really the principal does is make final decisions. We have a teacher named Melissa Nybert, who does a fantastic job kind of
Yeah,
being
you
the,
mentioned her, yeah.
yeah, she is the ideal coordinator. So
That's okay.
she has been given license by Doug and Mr. Zohorchak and myself, basically to make a lot of low-level decisions. And then if she needs Doug to make a decision, she'll ask Doug. Doug will also get involved in any discipline issues that happen online. However, discipline is really only attendance because you don't act up online. You know, it's asynchronous,
Right.
so you're just not doing your work.
Right,
So Doug will then work with Melissa to organize intervention meetings with those families to say, listen, you're falling behind. It's not good. This is where this road leads. We want to get you on this path to a much better outcome. So that's what he handles. The other thing he handles is make sure that the teachers are doing what they're asked to do because it's an added assignment for a lot of teachers. So
Right.
teachers either get time or they get paid extra to run
Right.
ideally. So It's busy, right?
Yeah.
Teaching is a very, very busy job. And when you get paid that extra thing, sometimes it's like, well, I got to do it outside of school. So Mr. Johnson makes sure that the teachers are communicating with the families, that they're making sure that their grades are in, that those things are up to date.
Okay.
So
What is Melissa Nybert? Is that her name? Is it
Melissa Nyberg,
What is her training? Is
as
she,
far as,
like, is she a principal papers or just,
I don't know her, I don't know her certifications, but she's a teacher that's
Teacher.
been doing this for.
she is a
Social
teacher?
study.
Yes.
Correct, she's a social studies teacher.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
I don't know if she has other certs, but I could look it up for you.
It doesn't matter. No, no, no.
She's
So does
been
Doug
doing it
stay
for
at
as
the high
long.
So she's not in the operational
Doug's at the high
principal?
school all
He
the
stays
time.
at the high school all the
As
time
the
unless we
operational.
need to move him. Yeah, unless we, for some reason, if someone was out and he had to go help somewhere.
And Templeton
Okay, so
does three.
Kelly at Ben Franklin does not have an operational principal,
No.
Ms.
Her,
Springer does.
Mr. Springer is
Huh?
the only.
Mr. Springer doesn't. either.
and Mr. Springer doesn't. Okay. So then, all right. So I have two questions in. Do we have a plan? Do we plan to evaluate this effectiveness at the end of the year? And do we have a plan when we're going to have the new building open again?
No official plan on the new building yet, but I think we have a pretty good idea.
Okay.
That building, if I make a recommendation today, it would be that Mrs. Eisenman will become that principal
Right.
to run that building of about 400, which should be about the same size as Ben Franklin or East Pike.
Mhm.
So that would be that recommendation. Mrs. Templeton would stay at the junior high for now as the operational principal there. And because really the only difference is the geography. You know, like when, you know, the
Right.
number of students and staff that Mr. Springer's in charge of or Mrs. Urbani's in charge of is the same. It's actually still a few fewer, right, at Eisenhower and Horseman combined, but it's just the geographical separation that becomes a problem.
I see.
So
I see.
by using Mrs. Templeton and her incredible gifts
Right.
of versatility to help out in both capacities, we've been able to make sure that while Aaron is in one place, the other place is safe and operational and running smoothly,
Right.
and vice versa.
Okay. Oh, do you evaluate all of them then?
I evaluate all the principals, that's correct. And we actually kind of take dipstick tests on how things are doing. We had a conversation at our last administrative meeting about how we thought this was working. And if I were to sum up what the assessment was, it's working. It's,
Okay.
is it one, ideal? No, probably not.
Okay.
Are we making sacrifices here or there? We sure are. Is it unsafe? No, absolutely not. Is the work
Okay.
getting done? Absolutely.
Okay.
So,
Because it's the one thing that is something that's the word out on the street. People were talking about, like, why do you have principals running all over and blah, blah, blah.
it's confusing.
And then, I'm hoping that we didn't do this just to save when I read back on the minutes, we say, I think it was approximately 145,000. That's what was stated in the thing. Is that right? That's what was stated in the paper. And that doesn't seem like, I don't know. I think it really needs to be reevaluated. If we did it because of the idea that we don't want any of these principals to leave us, we want them to stay. And when the new building comes, that's going to help. That would be a better decision out on the street to say, well, we're safe, it's being covered. And I'm not criticizing it.
No,
It's just that very few people have approached me with anything, but that is one of the things.
Sure.
Why do you have principals running all over? And this is a perception,
absolutely. And it's your
which is not
responsibility.
right. It's not a true, huh?
And it's your responsibility to bring those concerns to us, right? So
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
100%. And if we ever get to the point where we think it's unsafe or unmanageable, you have my word, you will hear from me immediately.
I believe that. Thank you.
So, and I'd like to hear from the teachers on discipline on that, because I think that's where it hurts the most. Not as much in the elementaries, but in the secondary buildings, that the time between someone getting written up and the response to it.
Mhm.
I don't know
Yeah.
that. I don't know
That's
that.
why I think where there's biggest where you get shortchanged the most is, other than that, but I think the discipline is where it's difficult when you have principals moving all around.
Yeah, that's why the Dean of Students has been an integral part of this. Mr. McHugh stepped up in a big way to make sure that
Good.
that low-level discipline is addressed immediately. I actually had a conversation with him the other day, and he said even things that is teacher managed, We have like, teacher, we call it a T-chart. Teacher manages this, low-level disruptions in the class, the teacher manages. Big disruptions, the principal manages. And Paul told me that he is following up with even a lot of the teacher manager stuff, just to let kids know, look,
But he teaches a full load?
No, he teaches, I want to, and I,
I
4 or 5.
misunderstood.
Krista, do you know exactly how many he teaches?
Dr. Minnick's on.
And Dr. Minnick, I didn't see you on there. If you could, does Paul teach 4 or 5 periods a day?
Can you hear me, Rob?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Paul has he has a schedule. I believe he has 5 classes. He has a full schedule. I mean, he
That's a lot.
right now he is scheduled for 2 periods with the dean of students. So we were able to last year when we integrated the dean, Joe had 6 classes. Paul may have 6. I need to double check, but we frequently pull him in for a period or 2 more, just depending on, the climate that day, if you know what I mean.
I like that. I like that he's doing that. I wish he had more time. Yeah.
Who's the dean of students at the senior high now?
It's all, we
Currently
have
is no
one.
dean of students at the senior high.
Yeah.
And we've had in the past.
We've had that in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Burdick
After,
was-
after I left.
Michael Burdick was,
When I was there was no dean, and then when I left,
Michael.
no, Donnie Bowers.
Donnie
was
Bowers,
And then when
and
Donnie
Michael.
moved up, Michael Burdick took
Correct.
over.
Okay.
and they have the capacity to build that in their schedule. But
I'd like to see that because that's what I think there's,
I can
They
picture
know-
that being a problem. Yeah.
yeah, they've talked about that. We have the capacity, we think, and the permission, they have the permission, if they can build that in their schedule to get those 4 or 5 periods, they can do that. But
we shouldn't have to build anything in schedules. If it can't build it in, you just hire someone, a dean of student. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Anyone, I mean, certification, or if someone's going to get the principal papers, I mean, it doesn't have to be someone that's currently on staff there.
Unless someone wants it.
Yeah.
I think whenever I say, will you evaluate this? Like if you ask any of the principals, I'm just thinking myself as when I work, they're not going to complain, I don't think.
Not too bad.
But could we, well, maybe they do, okay. But could we get some input when you evaluate it from teachers anonymously? I don't know if you ever do that, or is that just something that we say no to?
No, we can do that. We do that occasionally. I have an advisory council that I sit with and we talk about things like
Oh,
that.
I
So
don't know that, that's good.
we can definitely put that on the agenda, and they will then survey their staff. So it's not an evaluative thing. So people are much more free to share their complaints, their concerns,
Mhm.
so they'll share with them, and then they'll bring it to me, and then we'll talk about possible solutions to it. So I can definitely put that
That's
on.
nice, that's nice.
Is it something you can even do a survey, just an anonymous
Yeah.
survey
Yeah,
throughout,
they can do
through all the
I would
teachers?
love that. It's
100%.
so easy
What
to
I'll
set them
do-
up.
Yeah, I'll send out the agenda for that advisory council and ask them to survey their colleagues, and they will do that. That way it doesn't come from me. It's not.
So, I mean, I'd like to know just from all the buildings, if they feel that discipline is the same or
Yeah, we can.
worse, just.
We can
with
always
the-
do an
what is
administrative
it?
survey if you'd like. I can
Yeah,
always.
yeah, that's, I mean, I think that'd be fine.
Talked
Just-
At some
about that
point.
before.
Yeah.
I think that's a good
Absolutely.
idea.
Yeah,
At the same time, this is clearly a temporary situation. In 2 years, we're gonna be.
I hope, yeah. I mean, that's
Not-
good. I mean,
not at the high school.
it's working out
No,
now.
I
It's
understand that.
just,
The high school has the 2 people that's always had, and it's had the dean periodically. So we
Uh,
can ask that question. I just-
Not periodically, it's had it all, but probably this year in the last, I mean, even, Aaron, when you're there, I mean,
I was all by myself.
There's
Yeah.
no-
I was there for 8 years.
Well, they-
myself.
But there was a
Wait,
so
assistant
you like
principal.
this.
there was you had an assistant principal,
Oh, yeah.
there was an assistant, and,
No,
yeah,
I'm
principal and
just
assistant.
saying
We're not
that-
using that term
in
now.
within
Who
2
wasn't
years,
also doing.
these administrators will not be moving from building to building.
Okay, all right. Well, that's what I figured. And that was part of the reason you did this, a transition period for the new building. Okay, that really answered a lot of my questions, and
So there's also things that a principal can do, an operation principal can do that assistant principal can. And that's one of the reasons that we have.
Yeah, they have more freedom to make a decision. Krista doesn't have to ask Mike for permission.
And
she can
that's
just
good.
act, and Doug doesn't have to ask Wade for permission, he can just act.
Wonderful.
And the job description says that they only defer to the principal
Yeah.
in matters of academics.
Yeah.
Like, so,
I was reading the job description. I thought, oh, this isn't what I want to really know. Okay, so off the top, are we done with this topic?
it's,
One
I'm
question, if we want to come to the in-service, the all-county in-service.
gonna
do we-
invite you today, so
Okay,
yes.
good. I definitely want to be there. It's on my calendar.
Yes, ma'am.
I
You
want
know,
to learn stuff.
you
Can
know,
you send us a schedule?
Yeah. I can see
The-
that,
That'd
yeah.
be great.
So,
I gotta take just a minute and kind of brag about this, not from my perspective, but from Rob's perspective.
Oh, here we go.
I understand that there's 720 people have signed up for this countywide in-service day. And it's like one of the larger quote-unquote conferences within the whole state of Pennsylvania.
that's correct.
Yeah, not too many
And
places
when
do it.
Rob said that there were 720, my quick math said, well, how many seats are in the junior high auditorium?
Yeah,
Because if memory serves, we're starting to push that upper limit at this,
yeah.
at this point in time. So, kudos to Rob,
Yeah,
It's a lot.
Justin, Jared.
people are gonna be in the balcony, but there's still seats.
Oh, people will be in the balcony?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, okay.
To-
That's for all.
but to actually get this thing,
Well, I
and pull
think
this
it's
thing together,
mandatory
so-
that don't the schools mandate them to attend? Or
We
not?
do, I mean, this is it's a nice thing that the
Oh, it's
school districts in the county have come together and pool our
Yes.
resources. We've agreed to cooperate with this. We identify 1 or 2 days a year where we can have a common in-service so that if we need a training, we can bring somebody in and share that and reduce the cost.
Mhm.
This particular in-service has been on, this is the third or fourth time we've done it, but this is by far the largest. Last year, there were only about 520, now we have 720.
Didn't all schools participate last year?
All the schools participate except River Valley. River Valley does not typically participate.
Okay.
So they stay out of, they respectfully decline.
And they're coming this year?
Nope.
Wow,
They
okay.
don't come. So, but they are, it's nice. We all come together. We have 2 nationally renowned speakers, Jimmy Cassis, who's an author and a speaker, former educator. And then we have Greg Baer, who wrote a book called When You Wonder, You Learn, about Mr. Rogers and how
Yeah.
his lessons are more important today than ever. So it's and those bookend a bunch of presentations from all kinds of experts, like Attorney Repack, who's going to come and talk about keeping yourself out of due process and writing
Oh,
legally
boy, good
defensible
idea.
IEPs and all kinds of other
Good
training.
Can
idea.
you send out the schedule so?
Absolutely.
everyone can see?
Yep, I'll send it out and I'll send you guys an official invite to let you know what time it is, and you guys should come and check it out. It's pretty remarkable, and what everybody at this table and across the county and down the hall here have done is just unbelievable. The time and work that they put in is truly tremendous. So it's awesome. And the Aaron IU again, Susan Griffith from the Aaron IU has done so much work, and all the other supers have put in time. And it's been a collective task, but especially the people in this building have really put some
That's nice.
extra time in. So, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Before we move on, I got an invitation to academic and buildings and grounds next Monday at the same time.
At 5:30.
5:30.
Both are meeting at 5:30.
What?
You got it.
I think she updated that. It should be, do you have another email? I brought that to Denise's attention.
Yeah,
She should have updated it.
So which one is it?
It's academic is next week.
Academics is next week.
So the buildings and grounds is not.
Correct. And that has been fixed on your calendar. So
Thank you.
next week is academic and buildings and grounds is
29.
the 29th.
Yep.
Okay.
I know what Sue and I will fight over the microphone.
Dr. Reed, if there's anything else for this committee or?
The only quick thing I had that I didn't think to put on the agenda, because I didn't realize it until I saw it, was the principles for governance and leadership. I noticed on there that I thought we were pretty good about most everything on there, but one said assessing the actual school board process. Have we ever done that in any way? I don't have it with me.
I think we did one time.
And then the other one
I think
was about
is it right
setting.
behind you?
Oh, yeah. All right. So conduct a board self-assessment on a recurring basis. I know in the 2 years I've been here, I don't
We have not done that.
recall
Yeah.
anything like that. And then the other one was about the goal setting. Set annual goals that are aligned with comprehensive plans. Do we do that as a board? I mean, are committees supposed to be setting the goals for the committees, or?
No, I think you
Where is that
entrust
supposed to
the
happen?
administration to set the goals, but that's my interpretation. I can get clarification on it.
Okay, and then, yeah, and then if we know are we
Yeah.
made aware of what those goals are?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so when that motion comes up, Sue, maybe we emphasize those two points and make that a part of the motion to schedule those this year. Would that work?
I mean, honestly, I didn't really even look at them since we did them last year, but when they came up and I looked at them, I thought, I don't think we've done that in the 2 years
We
that
should
I've
do it
been here.
right? So,
Correct.
Self-assessment. That's all I have. Anybody else have anything else for this committee?
Well, no, but when you bring those things up, Sue, I'm thinking, since you said we've never done that, I don't remember ever doing that when I was on the school board, this board assessment. How do people do that? So maybe we could reach out and see, I don't know.
there's a tool.
Ma-
that's
Madam PSBA representative.
Okay,
So the PSBA has a regional representative in this area.
right.
They're an excellent source to come and facilitate
Ah,
or find somebody else from their headquarters staff to come and facilitate that kind of a discussion or that kind of a evaluation. So
okay.
I would
That's
say
good.
They don't have a tool.
I think they do have.
That's what I thought.
they may have a
Maybe
tool,
there is.
but if you,
I'll look, yeah.
the
I can
point
look
is,
on
the
it.
point is they'll provide that kind of a service
Correct.
if you want one.
Right.
I think we did it the first year I was here, 4 years ago or so. I had 5 years ago. It was-
Okay.
But yeah, I can definitely reach out
Okay,
and
we need
find
to
out.
research that some then.
100%. And I don't want to be a pest, but one of our goals was to be on time. We are 2 minutes over on this meeting.
I
Oh,
know.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
I'm not a very good leader.
That's all right. No, it's okay.
It was-
Now, Jim, we
yeah.
need him back here. Keep us on track.
So, anything else?
Nothing for me. Anything else from anybody else? So meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you much.
We'll move into executive